And we are back. Chris Mannix, Sergio Mora, he's the fighter, I'm the rider. Back here in Las Vegas. We're on Saturday. Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford will finally step in the ring. A fight multiple years in the making will happen here in Las Vegas. Las Vegas, of course, the home of Sergio Mora. Caesars Palace, 2005. Sergio wins the Contender, wins $1 million. Within 5 years, Sergio loses his world title and loses more than $1 million right here in Las Vegas at Caesars Palace. Must bring up such great memories.
Great memories. I mean, May 24, 2005, a day that lives in greatness in my head. I mean, it changed my life, but it's also a day that lives in infamy because, you know, good things happen and bad things happen when you ever an influx of money comes to a 24-year-old guy from East LA. But Caesars Palace, my dreams came true. Nightmares too.
Caesars Palace, it giveth and it taketh away. Well, Caesars is just down the street from us. We're here at the Fontainebleau, which is the host hotel for Canelo against Crawford. And Sergio, I was thinking about this. I mean, the size of this event is pretty big. How would you fill in the blank? This is the biggest fight since when?
You know, Vegas, of course, the MSG is the mecca of boxing, right? But that was back in the day. Now the mecca is here, in my opinion. The biggest fights were in Las Vegas. So I go back in my Rolodex. Of course, Mayweather became big, but Canelo Triple G, that's what it reminds me here. Two guys that we didn't know who was going to win. They were both at their absolute peak. It was a unification, champion versus champion. And that has this type of feel. I think Las Vegas has that type of feel where it's like the closer this fight gets, the more you start leaning towards the underdog. I mean, it's a coin flip when it came to Canelo and Golovkin, but the closer this fight gets, the more I start leaning towards Crawford. I really do. I mean, that's the type of fight it is. You know, I don't know if the odds are going to change, but look, man, it's going to be a Mexican Independence weekend, so we know we're going to have a lot of Mexicans here, a lot of Mexican-American Chicanos. But I'm telling you right now, Crawford is one of these guys that can do something special, and the crowd doesn't, you know, it doesn't sway how he's going to be feeling fight night. You know, He's ready for it.
That was a fantastic job of not answering my question. You sort of did when you said Canelo Golovkin, then you continue to elaborate on other things. I think Canelo Golovkin, both fights were big, very big. For the boxing fans at that time, those were the biggest fights over multiple years that you could possibly make. I do think that this Canelo Crawford fight is a little bit bigger. Maybe it's because of, you know, the differences in these guys in terms of their weights. You know, Crawford, long time, 147-pound kingpin. Canelo been ruling at 168 for multiple years now. Maybe it's because, you know, you've got different fan bases. You mentioned this is going to be a Canelo fan base, but Crawford, who is one of the biggest stars in boxing, he's got his own fan base. I think Netflix has something to do with it as well. I mean, the fact that this is going to be on the biggest streaming service in the world and the fire hose that comes with it, blasting it out to its tens of millions of potential viewers. I just think that makes this big. I mean, Canelo Golovkin, both those fights were phenomenal fights. This is up there to me with Mayweather-McGregor, with Mayweather-Pacquiao in terms of being big fights, but also being big events.
Not only does the clash of styles intrigue people, the clash of demographics as well. You know, you can't overlook the fact that, you know, you got a Mexican fighter and a black fighter, or sometimes you got a white fighter and a black fighter. The clash of styles because you hit different people, different genres, different people in age groups. So the demographic is key if you're going to have a big fight. But ultimately, it comes down to championship caliber talent. Are these two the absolute best at their weight division? How long have they been the best? And that's where it comes down to. And the closer this fight gets, Chris Mannix, the more I start leaning towards Crawford. I really do, man. I love the way he's handling the press media. I love the fact that he's tuning everything out. He looks just as big when they're in close. I mean, the weigh-in's going to be a different story. And come fight night, once they rehydrate, but Crawford looks mean.
All right, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to different
I'm
parts.
excited, man.
Of this
Let's go.
I
know.
I get it. You're into it. But Sergio, we start every show out with our winners and losers of the week. So give me your winners of this past week.
I think the winners of the week has to be, you know, whoever's in charge, whether it's Riyadh Season Seller Promotions, TKO. I don't know who's in charge, but the fact that they put this mega event here at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, it wasn't an international fight, even though those are big events. This is where this fight of this magnitude belongs, in Las Vegas. The biggest fights ever in history here were either at the Mecca at MSG earlier back in time, the Joe Louis, Duran, those days. But right now it's Las Vegas, man. We got to come to Sin City on a big weekend, Cinco de Mayo weekend or September Mexican Independence weekend, especially with the Mexican fighter. This is where this fight belongs. So my winner of the week is whoever decided to bring it back home here to Las Vegas.
Well, my winners of the week are the two guys that are fighting in the main event because they are about to make a pile of money. Canelo, for this fight, is going to make 9 figures. For this fight, he is going to make north of $100 million. I don't think Crawford is quite there, but it's going to be his biggest payday by a country mile. Like, both these guys want this fight for very different reasons. Crawford, of course, chasing legacy. Canelo wants another big name, another big event on his resume. But the payday, that's going to be big for both these guys, Sergio. So they are my winners of the week. All right, on the flip side, give me your losers of the week.
On the cab ride over here, I was complaining with the cab driver over here. I think the losers of the week is the economy right now in Las Vegas. Everything is expensive. I used to come here when I was 16 years old. I used to go spar in Johnny Taco's gym. We used to get a steak. I won't say what else I drank, but I used to get a steak.
I'm shocked that you drank beer before you were 21. That's
$9.99.
I never would have expected that.
Now, a cab ride from the airport over here is over $30. I got a wine. A water. It was $18 for a water. So the overpriced. The price gouging going on in Las Vegas is ridiculous. Everyone in the economy of Las Vegas, they're my losers of the week.
All right. My losers are supporters of the changes to the Muhammad Ali Act. Sergio, earlier this week there was a meeting or a hearing in California about these changes to the Muhammad Ali Act, which would effectively allow UFC and TKO to create a UFC-type model in the boxing space. Well, this hearing that took place was effectively supposed to be a rubber stamp for these changes, to support these changes being pushed through as legislation. The reaction to it by people that were commenting during this hearing was widely negative. People were not in favor of changes to the Muhammad Ali Act. Andy Foster, the commissioner, was quoted saying, "This is the most feedback we've received in a commission meeting since I've been involved." It was decided later that a subcommittee was going to be created to get further feedback with a recommendation to the California Commission coming at the end of the year. So, look, this is it sounds kind of boring, but this is a big story because if this Muhammad Ali, if the changes to the Ali Act do not go into effect or are not turned into federal law, then TKO is going to have a very hard time operating, at least the way that it wants to operate. So this was kind of, I don't want to call it a body blow to TKO, but it certainly was a stiff jab, I think, to them in terms of overcoming or getting themselves into the game.
Yeah, the Muhammad Ali Act is something where we can look under, the financial statements of where, boxers want to know how much at the event, accrue, so how many pay-per-views did I sell? How many shirts did I sell in the stands? How much money was generated? And we want a piece of that if it was a percentage that was stipulated in the contract. And if the Muhammad Ali Act goes, looking under that cover goes as well.
How many shirts did you sell back in the day?
Believe it or not, I sold a lot after the Contender, but after the Contender, no one bought nothing. I give my shirts away now. Everyone that wants a Latin Snake shirt, I don't sell them. I give them away.
It's true. He gives them. You see him in the lobby at these hotels. He'll give you one of those shirts. All right, we're going to do a little true or false here on this show as we get ready for this mega event happening on Saturday. And I want to start with the weight issue, which is an issue that you and I vehemently disagree on. I don't know why. I would have thought that you and I would be on the same page on this one. But true or false, weight for either fighter will be an issue in this fight?
False, because weight doesn't translate into strength. Crawford is a strong fighter. He doesn't need all that bulk, all that muscle, all that weight to still be a hard puncher. You could see muscular boxers, muscular fighters, they don't translate into power. Most power punchers are tall, skinny, Thomas Hearns type frames, Kelly Pavlik type frames. You get a lot of those guys that can actually generate power in a different way. So size, let's get that out of the way. Size is not as important as people think. Weight is not going to be as important as people think because Crawford is a unique boxer puncher where he definitely a tall, skinny guy, but the way he's able to generate that power, that comes from his wrestling background. That comes from him just being a freak of nature. The way he's able to fight from the left-handed stance and the right-handed stance, and the power is the same. You don't know where that power is going to come from. And mind you, the uppercuts, the body shots, he has longer arms than Canelo. I think reach is going to be more of a deciding factor than weight, believe it or not. Reach, height, and just fight IQ. These are the things that are going to be more important than just sheer mass of a guy that's going to rehydrate and be heavier come fight night. That's going to be actually detrimental to an already flat-footed fighter in Canelo Alvarez.
Well, I disagree for different reasons. First of all, weight's not going to be an issue for Canelo because Canelo is used to this weight. He has been fighting as a full-fledged 168-pounder really since 2020 when he beat Callum Smith to win his first title at super middleweight. For Terence Crawford, it is his first time fighting at 168, and it's his second time fighting above 147 pounds. Terence Crawford's trainer, Ryan McIntyre, said something after the win over Errol Spence that always stuck with me. He said, I told you, talking to Spence supporters, you should have gotten Crawford earlier. You should have fought him earlier in his welterweight career after he was coming up from 140 to 147 and adjusting to the new weight class. There is an adjustment, Sergio, to a new weight class. You have fought in multiple weight classes in your career. I don't know how you can sit there and say that a guy jumping up, what's really 21 pounds, it's 14 if you count just the Madrimov fight, but putting that aside, it's 21 pounds in his first professional fight going up against a top 10 pound for pound guy. My concern with Crawford is that he has moments in the first 6 rounds where he looks brilliant. He looks like the Terence Crawford of old. But you get to the second half of the fight, with that extra 14 pounds of muscle, it gets heavy, it weighs on you. You're not as fast, you're not as elusive. You're carrying that around as you're trying to avoid the predatory nature of Canelo Alvarez in the ring. That's where my concern would be for Terence Crawford. So I'm sitting right here. I fully believe that when this fight is over, we're talking about the added weight of Terence Crawford being a factor.
Weight can be an issue late in the fight. I'm not going to deny that. All right, so weight can be an issue the later this fight goes. Absolutely, especially if they start fighting on the inside. And
where do you think this fight's going to take place? You think it's going to be? I think it's going to be an inside fight.
I don't think so. I think in order for Bud to win this fight, he's going to have to make it an outside type fight. Yeah, they're going to fight on the inside because Crawford's an excellent inside fighter as well. But it's going to be twos and fews. It's not going to be an inside war. It ain't going to be, guys fighting on the inside, gaudy war type. No. It's going to be on the outside. And then when it does get on the inside and Crawford is forced to fight this Mexican beast off him, he's going to do that. He's going to attack the body, and then he's going to pivot away off the ropes. He's going to try to keep this fight in the middle of the ring, and that's where he's going to have it as his advantages. Crawford is a monster, a sniper when it comes to him fighting in circles, either clockwise or counterclockwise. You never see him really off the ropes, but when he is off the ropes, he's still just as dangerous. And to give you some examples of size, being detrimental to the bigger puncher, right? Sugar Ray Leonard was supposed to get killed against Marvin Hagler. He was off.
You're bringing up one of like two. I know what you're going to say, and we talked about this in previous weeks, but you're bringing up one of really 2 examples. There's Sugar Ray Leonard against Marvin Hagler, and Sugar Ray was like, his last fight was like 149 or something like that before. He was a little bit heavier, and he was coming off a layoff. And also John Ruiz and Roy Jones is the other great example of a guy moving up.
I can give you Roberto Duran, Iran Barkley.
A lot of examples of guys that go up and don't look good. How about Jermell Charlo going up against Canelo 2 years ago?
But this is where size, if you're one of these punchers that you rely on one power shot or 2 punches, that's going to actually work against you against a fighter that's more fluid with his combinations, where his power is actually at the end of the punch. That's Crawford right there. He's dangerous inside with those long arms, and he's dangerous, especially dangerous, on the outside from the southpaw stance and the orthodox stance. That's why Terence Crawford is such a puzzle to figure out, because he's fast, he has excellent timing, great timing, and timing beats speed and power and size, by the way. And if you're doing it from both the left-handed stance and the right-handed stance, but he's not punching as much anymore. He's following opponents around now.
Yeah, but why don't you look back? Everybody keeps looking at the Canelo previous fight and saying that's an example.
No, I'm not.
But a lot of people are.
No, I'm not.
A lot of people are looking at the Canelo fight and saying that's an example of regression of Canelo Alvarez. Why don't you look at the Crawford-Madrimov fight where he didn't throw a lot of right hands? He didn't throw a lot of power shots. He wasn't as active as he was at 47 against Errol Spence.
Madrimov had footwork, though. He was just as big as Canelo as far as the upper body.
Had a problem with that footwork.
Footwork is what gave Crawford issues in that fight. It was the fact that Madrimov had a high fight IQ. Let's not get it twisted. Madrimov is a beast, a champion, a strong guy. He has that extended amateur background. But it was the footwork that gave him issues. Canelo's going to have no footwork. Canelo doesn't have footwork. So that's not going to be the issue when it comes to him having to fight Canelo off. And Canelo, we all know that has heavy feet, flat-footed. He had issues cutting off the ring with William School.
Who was on
Crawford,
his bike the entire time.
Yeah, he ran. He ran.
Okay.
But Crawford doesn't run.
No.
He power boxes from both stands, and he's just as dangerous.
You think he's going to power box with Canelo?
100%.
Okay.
I don't think he runs. I don't see Crawford.
This brings it full circle. Though. I think when you get to the second half of the fight, it's going to be hard for him to run because I think that's when the weight starts to kick in. That's when the legs get heavy and the body gets heavy, and you have to fight in the pocket a lot more. That's why I think it's a problem. I think he's going to have to.
It can be, especially at 37 years old.
That's another part of it.
It can be, yeah.
About yet either. All right, true or false? Crawford, who is notoriously a slow starter, has to get off to a fast start on Saturday.
False. Because if that's what, if Crawford goes out of his natural element just to do something different on the biggest night of his life, that is going up against everything and anything that made him successful and got him to this point. Crawford needs to continue doing what he's doing. There's been a lot of great fighters that are notorious slow starters. You know, the great Bernard Hopkins is one of them. But there's a lot of fighters that I can think of that were slow starters and were still great, and they had longevity and great for a long time. And it's because they fought in that way, because they didn't go out, they didn't change their stripes. They didn't want to do something different for that one big night. That's what you don't want to do. Crawford needs to continue doing what he's always done. Fight his fight. Box, fight, turn southpaw, turn left-handed, and be mean. Crawford's a mean guy. Not only does he have the IQ, but he's mean. He wants to go for the knockout. He wants to land more punches than you. You land one, he's going to come back with two. This fight's not going to come down to weight. It's not going to come down to size. It's not going to come down to getting an early start or a late finish. It's going to come down to meanness and how do you take the punch of the other fighter. If Crawford gets hurt with one of Canelo's power shots, then size is going to be the big factor here. And yeah, we're going to realize, oh, okay, Crawford, it was too much too soon. But if he gets hit with a shot and smiles and comes back with two, getting ready for an upset. Get ready for something special because Crawford is one of those dogs.
To answer the question, I think he does need to get off to a faster start than usual. I disagree. I think it is true. Canelo is also something of a slow starter. He's another guy that likes to download information in the first part of the fight and figure his opponent out. I think one way or the other, this is going to be a highly competitive fight. I think the scorecards, if it gets that far, are going to be very close. I think for Crawford, knowing that you're basically fighting in Canelo's backyard, you know, Las Vegas is Caneloville. He's fought a bunch of times here. And Sergio, he's been on the receiving end of some very favorable decisions. Even his losses have been favorable. Go back to the Dimitri Bivol fight in 2022. He lost that fight. He probably lost it wide. It was 15-13 across the board. You know
why fighters start slow, Mannix? It's not just to download information. It really is because it's a temperament. That's what you've been doing since the amateurs. You're not going to change that. It's who you are. It's what's made you successful all this time. I mentioned Bernard Hopkins was a slow starter. Canelo's a slow starter. But guys like Lomachenko.
But this is what I'm saying. Like this is like
it doesn't matter
if you have a chance to rack up 2 of the first 3 rounds just based on activity. I think you've got to jump at that and take it because I think towards the end of the fight, we could be looking at a 1-round, 2-round difference. I think this is the fight that Terence Crawford needs to get up to a bit of a faster start.
Okay, does that fast start need to be with punches?
Well, yeah, because that's how you score points.
That's how you score points, but that's not how you control the tempo of the fight. You could do it with foot feints, you could do it with hand feints, you could do it with angles, you could do it with, trying to flank them with jabs. Jabs aren't sexy, but they can win a round. You can win quiet rounds. So yeah, if you do want to jump off to a quick start, you don't have to do it with volume, is what I'm saying. You don't have to do it with activity and combinations and jumping on the bigger fighter. That's lunacy to me.
I'm not talking about jumping on. I'm talking about doing enough to win these rounds.
Yeah,
I'm
doing
talking
just enough.
Not just spending time, not coasting, not figuring out the guy you're up against. I would make sure I'm letting my hands go in that first and second
I wouldn't
round.
let my hands go. I would use twos and fews. I would use the jab. I would come out southpaw, see how Canelo responds to that, and then go to the lefty and maybe finish strong.
Do you think he's going to, this is a little bit of a side topic, but Crawford, of course, switches a lot. Do you think he's going to fight more southpaw against Canelo Alvarez?
I do. I think because most of the fights that the great Crawford fights, the majority of those rounds, when I start looking at the old Crawford fights, he's mostly a southpaw. I had to double check and ask Bomac, hey, is he a natural left-hander? Because he fights better as a southpaw to me. He is not.
No.
He
I
is
agree with you. I
not.
think he fights better as a southpaw.
Yeah, he's one of the few, very few fighters that fights better in his unnatural stance. That's Crawford. That's how talented this man is. He's like the Mozart of boxing because he does everything twisted and it comes out magical. So that's Crawford for you.
Yeah, I think he is going to fight southpaw. I think they'll be switching during the course of this fight, giving Canelo some different angles. But I think for most of it, you're going to see him in that southpaw stance, which means that straight left hand is going to have to come out. Like I've said this time and time again, every time we work a Canelo Alvarez fight, you cannot beat Canelo Alvarez just throwing the jab. You've got to throw your power shots. The two guys that have had the most success against Canelo over the last 10 years, Gennady Golovkin and Dmitry Bivol. The two things, or the one thing both those guys have in common, they're willing to let their hands go. Well, the jab is true, but they're willing to let their hands go. Gennady Golovkin was successful in part because he let his hands go. Dmitry Bivol was definitely successful because he let his hands go. There were other reasons. Dmitry Bivol had great size. Golovkin had a great jab, but both those guys threw right hands. The guys that tried to jab, Caleb Plant, Sergey Kovalev, Callum Smith, you cannot jab your way to success against Canelo.
Yes, you can, because that's exactly what happened with Mayweather, Golovkin, and with
was
Bivol.
12 years
it
ago.
was the jab.
12 years
Everything
ago.
came off the jab when it came to
You're
the
telling
jab.
me that number one reason Dmitry Bivol beat Canelo was the jab?
Jab and footwork.
I disagree. I think it was the fact he took the fight too. He pressed him, backed him up against
He
the
pressed
ropes.
him in the second half of the fight. He pressed him in the second half
That's part
of
of
the
the
fight.
fight. That's how you win the fight. He did
So
well there.
once he realized that Canelo couldn't hurt him, he lost respect for the size, the fact that he was catching the punches in the gloves and wasn't feeling anything coming from Canelo, because Bivol is a natural bigger fighter with bigger, he's fought bigger opponents, stronger opponents, so size wasn't a difference, but footwork and a jab.
Size was definitely a difference with Bivol. Bivol was the bigger man, the stronger man. He was pressing him. Go back and rewatch that fight. He was pressing Canelo Alvarez during key stretches. I'm not saying the jab wasn't a factor, just like I'm not saying it wasn't a factor with Gennady Golovkin, but their willingness to let their power punches go was a big factor. And the reason guys don't let them go against Canelo, they know what's coming back, Sergio. They know what the counter shot looks like, it feels like.
Yeah, they know what's coming back when you're in the same stature as him, when you're in the same, when he can catch and counter off you. Bivol is so hard to catch and counter because he has brilliant footwork. He keeps his range. He keeps his distance, and he never lets his opponents close that distance. That's the reason he has that Russian savvy. You know, they teach that from the amateurs, where they want clean punches. They stay at a distance, and it's always 1-2, 1-2. And even his hooks look weird because they're open, but he's so strong, and it's all off the foundation, off the footwork.
So then, knowing that, and knowing the opponents Canelo that have been done well against Canelo and the opponents that haven't, what do you think Crawford's game plan is going to be in this fight?
To fight long, to power box, to fight long. But see, there's going to come a time where he's going to have to fight this man off him, and I think Crawford's mean enough, and he's already filled out nicely enough to where he can actually not out-muscle Canelo, but he won't be out-muscled. I don't think he's going to get out-muscled. Crawford has that wrestling background, so you know he's stronger upper body than he looks. That's the thing about these wrestler-turned-boxers. They have freakish strength, and that sometimes translates to power. I think Crawford has not only the length, the size, the IQ, but he has that natural strength that you need to fight off bigger guys like Canelo.
I wonder if instinctively that he's going to try to bang with him in there. If he's going to try to make it physical.
There'll be times.
I don't think that's a fight he can win. Like, he was incredibly strong at welterweight.
Who are you to talk to a dog like that? Crawford's a dog, man.
Look, if he was fighting some nobody, if he was fighting a lesser opponent, I would say he could do that. But he's fighting the best 168-pounder in the world. And he's fighting a guy that's still a top 10 pound-for-pound guy.
A guy that's already had a lot of fights and a lot of wear and tear, a lot of injuries, been fighting professionally since he was 15 years old, 67-plus pro fights. The wear and tear is bound to catch up. And if we haven't seen Canelo regress in the last couple fights, throw less punches in the last couple fights, that's not a coincidence. It's not the guys that he's fighting. It's the fact that, time is catching up on him.
Don't put your issues on Canelo. Time has caught up with you. Regression has caught up with you.
Time has given up on me. That's the thing. But I know my deficiencies.
All right. Legacy-wise, I think there are some interesting questions to be answered here. I want to start with Terence Crawford. If Terence Crawford can win this fight, and become a 3-time undisputed champion in men's boxing, something we have never seen in this 4-belt era. If he can do that, does he go on your Mount Rushmore of fighters from the 21st century? I'm talking about the years 2000 to today, of the 4 best fighters of the 21st century. If he wins this fight, do you put Terence Crawford on that list?
I'm glad you explained the 21st century. It always confuses me. So it's from the 2000 on.
Yes.
Okay, so from 2000 on.
What,
Yes,
you
I
would have gone with like Tyson.
I would have gone back to the 19th century.
No,
I don't know,
that's
20th
not
century.
it.
Yes, I would put him in the Mount Rushmore. There's 4 guys in the Mount Rushmore, right? 4 presidents.
4 presidents, yeah.
I would put Canelo. I would put Crawford if he beats Canelo. I would put Usyk and Inoue in that Mount Rushmore because they've done great things in different divisions. They represent their country. They become stars in their country. So it's not only popularity, it's not only their pugilistic skill, but it's also how long they've been on top. Pound for pound, great. So those 4 guys from different parts of the world that have dominated not only one division, but multi-divisions, that's what you got to do to become an all-time Mount Rushmore great. You know, so that is my 4 faces that you put up there in boxing.
So 3 of them for me are relatively straightforward, and then I disagree with you on a couple of them. Usyk's on that list. Undisputed at cruiserweight, twice undisputed at heavyweight. That legacy speaks for itself. Also an Olympic gold medalist, if we want to throw that in there in the early teens. Floyd Mayweather's on that list.
But he fought in the 90s.
He did fight, but most of his career was in the 2000s. Most of his career, the most important fights of his career were in the 2000s. So he's on that list. Manny Pacquiao.
I was going to put Pacquiao and Mayweather too, but these guys started their career before 2000.
But it's all about who's got the, like explaining this all over. But who has the best resume in the 2000s, the 21st century, who should be on this Mount Rushmore. So for me, it's Mayweather, it's Pacquiao, it's Usyk, and that 4th spot kind of up for grabs. Like right now, I would probably put Andre Ward ahead of Inoue. Even though Inoue has accomplished a ton in these lower weight classes, Ward being an Olympic gold medalist, Ward being champion at 168, champion at 175, going through the Super 6 to win all those big fights, beating Froch the way he did, beating Kovalev the way he did. Ward is right there for me. But if Crawford can beat Canelo, he'd probably unseat Ward on my Mount Rushmore. I'd probably have to erase that Andre Ward face on Mount Rushmore and put Terence Crawford up there.
Well, I was thinking about putting, Mayweather, of course, up there, and then Pacquiao, of course, up there.
All right,
they fought in the 90s, man.
Doesn't matter. Their
you got to
careers
make this.
began.
Well, then you got to not say 21st century, say the past 50 years or something.
No,
then
the
we're throwing in
21st
there.
century. Who has the best? Who has the best careers in the 21st century? I feel like we're having a
Look,
production
look.
meeting.
If we're gonna be throwing greatness up there, then Bam Rodriguez is not far from there.
Bam Rodriguez is not on the Mount Rushmore yet. He has not had that career yet.
I'm just saying, you threw Andre Ward in the mix.
Andre Ward had a great career in the 2000s.
Andre Ward he's a great career, but he only faced 1 Hall of Famer in his resume.
He faced Carl Froch.
That's it.
You can make a case.
Bam
maybe
Rodriguez
for
already probably has too.
Well, timing matters too, okay? When you faced Juan Francisco Estrada, when you faced Carlos Cuadras, when you faced Sri Sakatso Rungvisai. I didn't get those guys in his prime. Taking nothing away from that. You take those fights and you win those fights like Bam did, that's great. There's a little bit different. I think Ward is there for me now. Terence Crawford, if he can beat Canelo, he would be there as well. All right, last one. True or false? Canelo's legacy will be negatively impacted if he loses this fight.
False, because his legacy is already engraved in the minds of boxing fans and in the history books. He's already done enough. He can be in the Hall of Fame right now, whether he wins, loses, or gets a draw here, because he's been that guy. He's been that guy for so long, for how long has he been on top? I mean, he came to the States in 2010.
Years.
No, but he came to the States in 2010.
His big event, his coming out party, was 2010 against Jose Miguel Cotto. I get everything that you're saying about how he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is unquestionably one of the best fighters between 154 and 168 that we've seen in this generation. But Canelo's chasing one more thing. Canelo is chasing Mexican greatness. Canelo is chasing the legacy of Julio Cesar Chavez. And
that's a ghost he's never going to catch
okay,
up.
but I don't know if he can you say never? For sure, never? He can never catch
Never. Because the great champion, el gran campeón mexicano, Chavez, he is pretty much the Ali for Mexicans. And Salvador Sanchez, I mean, there's so many fighters that Canelo will never be able to capture. These guys are on the hearts of minds of every Mexican, past, future, and present, that you just got to respect the generations. And that's just the way it is, man. It's just the way it is, man. You can never just say, oh, he accomplished more, he made more money, he won more belts. No, Chavez is always going to be number one. Salvador Sanchez, Ruben Alvarez, there's so many other Mexican greats. Marquez are going to be put in the hearts and minds of Mexicans and boxing fans over Canelo, just because they came before and they did so many great things. That's just the way it is, man. Don't shoot the messenger, even though I'm Mexican, but Canelo is chasing ghosts there.
I defer to you on how Mexicans feel about Chavez versus Canelo, Canelo versus Marquez, Canelo versus Sanchez. But what you're saying is there's nothing Canelo can do.
Nothing can do
to catch them. Because let's just say, let's play this out.
Can anyone ever chase Muhammad Ali's ghost as the greatest ever?
I mean, they kind of do, don't they? Like, Muhammad Ali is self-styled as the GOAT. There are people that will say Sugar Ray Robinson was the GOAT. There are people that will throw other names potentially out there. I'm just saying with Canelo, like, his career's not over. And it doesn't sound like he's ready for it to end anytime soon. Let's just say that Canelo goes out there the next year and a half, beats Terence Crawford in a mega event. Let's say he stops Terence Crawford. Let's say he decides next year, you know what? David Benavidez is on my list. I'm going to move up. I'm going to fight David Benavidez for a light heavyweight title. Let's say he beats David Benavidez. See, I see you smiling there. Like, you can see, yeah, I can see in your mind he's inching ever so closer to being on that Chavez level.
Mannix, you're lucky I'm half Mexican. So I can turncoat here. Yeah, maybe. Okay. Maybe if that's the case. He comes back and beats the Mexican monster. He comes back and does something great. He rematches Bivol and beats him. Yeah, then maybe you could start doing that. Maybe you could start questioning, is he the greatest Mexican fighter? But for right now, I think if you did a poll of just nothing but Mexican fans and people that really have followed boxing, you're not going to ever surpass the great Mexican champion in Chavez.
I don't disagree with that. I think Chavez is in a class.
Because Chavez won hearts and minds, man.
That's it. Like, and that may be where we have to stop this conversation, because I think you can make an argument at some point that Canelo's resume is better than Chavez. I think that's an arguable point. I don't think you can make any case that anyone but Chavez won over the spirit of Mexico.
There you go. And if you make the case of Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson, I think overall, Robinson was probably a better fighter. Threw body punches. He fought in an era where they fought, every other week. They're just
did he fight Jake LaMotta 6 times, I think?
So if you really, if you really think about it, who was the natural better fighter? Not just boxer, fighter. It was Sugar Ray Robinson, but hearts and minds, gold medal, everything that he stood for, everything outside of boxing, how he changed, the way people see, in history. Muhammad Ali is going to be the greatest in everyone's book, including mine.
The only hearts and minds you changed were the host at Caesar's Palace and their wallets.
Shout out Steve Shakirian. I'll see you there later out there.
When we come back, we're going to make our picks of the week. All right, Sergio, time now to make your picks. After weeks of waffling, after so many backs and forths, if that's the way to say it, who do you got in the main event? Canelo Alvarez, Terence Crawford.
Just like every great fight, the closer the fight gets, the more I start thinking about the underdog. When this fight first got announced, I said Canelo, by decision. I don't think he knocks him out, but decision. And then, halfway into the promotion, I started saying, yeah, but it's going to be very difficult. He might get bloodied and bruised up. It's going to be a tough unanimous decision. Now it's fight week. Now we're here. Now I'm thinking Crawford, Mannix. I'm thinking Crawford, man. I just love the way he's handling the press. He's handling the media. He's not intimidated. He filled out nicely. I see the look and the dog in his eye. Man, I'm telling you, come Saturday, come fight night, I'm going to be like, Crawford's taking this.
You know what look I see in Canelo Alvarez? The exact same look I've seen in every big fight since the Floyd Mayweather fight in 2013. This is old hand for Canelo Alvarez. He shows up in his Versace gear. He's walking relaxed through the casino. This is who he is. This is his stage, and I think he's going to have a big moment. I don't think he blows out Terence Crawford. I don't think he stops Terence Crawford, but I think Canelo's clean punching, I think his body shots, and I think his pressure are going to make a big difference in this fight. I like Canelo by decision. All right, the co-main event is a couple of young guys. You've got Callum Walsh going up against Fernando Vargas Jr., the son of the great Fernando Vargas, getting a chance to fight on the big stage. Both these guys, 154 pounds. Both these guys are undefeated. Who do you like in this one?
I love the trajectory and the way they've been maneuvering and promoting Fernando Vargas Jr. I think he's cut from greatness. He's cut from that cloth, and I think he's been evolving into a better professional fighter. I got him by knockout. I think this is his time.
Wow.
I think this is his time for him to shine and be on the big stage, and he's not going to be fighting on undercards after this. I like Fernando Vargas Jr. by stoppage.
You know, people have complained that this fight isn't big enough for a card like this. And maybe they're right. Maybe it's not Danny Garcia against Lucas Matisse as a co-main event to a Mayweather fight. But this is a real good scrap. Like, this is going to be a fun fight between two guys that can bang it out a little bit. I think Callum Walsh, I give him a slight edge. I think he's got a little bit of an edge in power. I think his overall, the opponents he's faced have been a little bit better. I think it's a competitive fight. I also think it goes the distance. But I think Callum Walsh does just enough to pull it away. Callum Walsh by a competitive decision. The last fight we've got, I like we disagreed on a couple of these. The last one we got is over in the UK. This is a fight that is live on DAZN and is for the 147-pound title that Boots Ennis just recently vacated, the IBF belt. It is Lewis Crocker against Paddy Donovan, the rematch of the controversial first fight that Crocker seemed to be winning pretty convincingly. Looked like he had Crocker knocked out, and then he hits him with a late punch, knocks him out, ruled a loss by disqualification. Who do you like in that one?
Donovan, knockout. I think he finishes the job this time and makes it crystal clear that he was the better man that night. There's no lucky punches in boxing, Mannix, all right? Let me teach you that. There's no lucky punches. If you got knocked out, it was meant to happen. I think this time around, Donovan does it even easier.
Yeah, I think that I like Donovan too. The problem with the first fight was more the referee out of position. He didn't get in there when it was a wild crowd and Donovan couldn't hear the bell. It wasn't really a cheap shot, he just didn't hear it. So I like Donovan to finish the job as well. I think Donovan wins this fight by knockout. And the winner of that fight, he's got a belt, it's gonna be in play in 147. Sergio will just be in play at craps table number 6 over at Caesar's Palace.
And you know what I'm gonna do when I win? I'm gonna buy you a new shirt. Terrible.
Shirt.
Who made that for you, your grandma?
Maybe.